you?
Good, good. I feel like I'm rushing around and I was looking in the camera thing and I've got mascara under my eye. I'm like, dang, reality. This is so real.
So real. It's so perfect.
Hey, welcome. Today I'm talking to Cindy Weber, and I am going to just let her introduce herself because she's going to do a much better job than I will at that, and I can't wait to share her voice with everybody. So Cindy, please take it away.
Okay, I don't know what to say. I think that's one of the things that most of us struggle with is sharing who we are and what we want to bring to the planet and how we want our ripple effect to impact those around us. And I am no different. So I think that's probably who I am, is a real authentic person sharing my journey and all that I've learned and grown from so others can do the same. In a nutshell, that would be my introduction.
That's awesome. And so one of the things that I'd love to talk about and get your insight on, because this is what you're all about, is empowering people to just be who they are, really,
Yeah.
and in a non-forgiving way, right?
Yeah.
And so my question is, right now, when a lot of people are getting back into the swing of things for fall, and in my life, maybe everything's not going as I thought it would be in my virtual calendar of perfectness. So I thought, I wanted to get you to just like chat with us a bit about what's a new fall routine, ritual, mindset that helps you.
That helps me. First off, I actively seek out the times I make myself wrong, because like you, I had this virtual desired outcome that lives out there in the ethers, and I had no plan to put it in place per se. I just assumed it was going to go a certain way. And for the most part, I'm on track, but where I'm not, I like to be aware of the make wrong that I create. For instance, I generated this event that I empower women, and we have a gathering on the 24th of September, which in my summer mind made sense in a scheduled sense. And in reality, I have to stay on true, solid mental course to kick the blocks out of my way as they arise, as life throws at us constantly.
Yes.
To stay true to what I'm actually committed to creating. I think most of the time, left up to our own devices, we're a hot mess. Like, we just have all this stuff in our world. We very rarely give ourselves credit for what we are rocking. And more often than not, it's easier for us to gravitate towards what's not. And even if it's on a really subtle subconscious level, it plays a role in the amount of power we can put into things. And so day by day, we're taking evidence and we're putting it into the category of, look at me, I'm a powerful person and I can do anything. Or, who am I to even try? I can't even make my bed in the morning, which, by the way, everyone has such a beautiful option. Make it, don't make it, but don't make yourself wrong.
Right.
If you choose not to do something, don't let that be the evidence that you're not powerful.
Right.
You know what I mean? When we do this, we're ridiculous.
And that really speaks to that kind of gut feeling. Some people talk about it like fear, and the fear is holding us back, that kind of thing. And it's like really, it's a choice that we make. So if we have that feeling of I'm not good enough today, and all of these commitments that I made, maybe I shouldn't be doing them. How can I get out of it? All of that stuff comes up in our minds. It's like, how do you just like get past that, and say, it's just right now I'm just feeling that way, but this is a commitment that I made, and we're doing this because it's in my values, it's in my core, that's what I want to do. It's almost like you need blinders on to, I don't know if it's blinders, but
it's almost a reprogramming. I view it as a reprogramming.
Yeah.
My mind, in what I know it to do, will default to disempowerment.
Yeah.
That's just naturally where I go. That's a lot of what I grew up with, role models showing me the way. And so it actively takes a course correction in staying true to myself, as opposed to the messages coming in or the previous messages that have implanted in my psyche that I carry with me every single moment. Right?
Yeah. And you must see this. I mean, I see it when I connect with a lot of female entrepreneurs, women kind of trying to do everything. The guys are doing it too, but from the empathy of being a woman, I feel like we're really connected in that feeling of either we're going to step into it or we're going to step out of it. And sometimes there's that cycle, and I like what you said about no matter what you're doing, don't make yourself wrong, because sometimes if we're in that cycle of stepping back, there's a really good reason. And this was my experience. I just took a year off of a lot of almost everything, and it was really pulling back in so that I could come back out. But what crept up during those times is that I was making myself wrong for needing to step out of it, instead of accepting where I was and why I was there, and embracing it, which every now and then I would, and it would feel really good. But then those thoughts of making myself terribly wrong for making that choice and stepping way back definitely creeps in. So as a woman, what would you say to all of the other women out there that are maybe going through something similar?
Well, first off, what I'd say is we're driving ourselves batshit crazy with the amount of stuff we feel we're responsible for. I mean, you really want to look at your world and how you've created it personally and see, wow, have I taken on so many agreements that I'll never be able to fulfill? Doesn't make us bad people. It means that we're naturally givers, and we want to be gracious with our time and energy. No one likes to say no. And so we have invited all of these things to be either in limbo or loosely committed to, and it leaves us feeling like we're spinning our wheels. So what I mean by that is every single time we pick up our phone, there's, I would say, 50 requests on there at any given time. And we want to be responsible to what we agree, even if it's on a subconscious level. If you see an event pass by on social media and you think to yourself, I'd love to support her, whether or not you ever get to the event, you will have this ongoing sense of, yes, I'm going to do that because I'm a powerful person and I can make things happen, or it will eat away at you. And you think of emails and all the requests that come in that form. It doesn't all end up on your plate to do it all. And the power in saying no frees up both sides. And I think we are not actively disengaging from things that don't need our attention, to put our attention and full energy into what matters to us moment to moment. Yeah. And we're open to change. So nothing's set in stone. And I think that often we, like you say, at the times we want to resist and say no and back out of certain commitments, that's okay too. It doesn't mean we're a flaky individual. It means that I consciously chose a yes and something has come up and I have to adjust my commitment there. Mm-hmm. But it's the way we work it out in our mind. Often we don't take the consciousness to look at it concretely and say, I powerfully need to say no here because I'm up to amazing things and ABC deserves my attention. So the rest of the alphabet's got to take a back seat for now.
And I love saying yes. Like, I'm a yes person, and so many times in my life, I've said yes, and great opportunities just abound from that. But I like the mantra, you have to say no so that you can get to the yes. Because if you don't say no to all of these little things, those big yes opportunities are going to look at you and be like, if we're talking universe, they're going to see that you're too busy for the big opportunities. You're full up and you couldn't handle another thing. So you have to say no to get to that big yes. And I love that reminder, and something that I'm practicing a lot of now, is just really staying true to those values and saying no where I need to. And it's not just saying to no to those external things like you talk about, like emails and events and just commitments outside of it. It's saying no to thoughts and not justifying the choices that we make, whatever it is, whether it's for those external things that are happening or those internal choices that we've made for the way we want to live our lives daily at home, is that we don't need to justify, and we don't need to justify to ourselves or to anybody else. And
but I think it comes back to powerfully choosing.
Yeah.
So if you look at a scenario where you only have A and B, and it's rare, by the way, you very rarely have an A and B choice. Life comes at us and there's the entire alphabet and you have to choose. Regardless of your choice, even if it's a 50-50, we will always make ourselves wrong and ponder and wonder what that other option coulda, woulda, shoulda. So when we recognize that about ourselves, we can free up and give ourselves some compassion for, I'm going to make the decision and not be paralyzed, because often we're paralyzed. So you take a choice to say, I'm no longer going to be paralyzed, I'm going to make a choice. Very rarely do we forget the fact that all roads lead up. So even if we are making a choice in the moment, it doesn't mean that it's permanent forever.
Right.
So we really have to be aware of the stuff we have made up in our mind and the way we operate. We always make ourselves wrong. We always drive ourselves crazy. Great. Don't let us stop us from making this decision. It's not even an A and B. It's 27 choices in front of me. I'm just going to choose and choose again in the next moment if it doesn't feel right.
Right.
And then it's just such freedom around that.
Yeah.
We don't often operate in a sense of playfulness like that. Everything's very significant and intense.
It's beautifully empowering when a person realizes that, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's something that you grow. I think you grow into it. I believe we all have our own lessons to learn, and like some people learn it early, and some people it takes a lifetime to realize that.
And it's a practice.
Yeah.
And so you'll have it mastered in one moment, and the next moment, if you do not have it mastered, all there is not to make yourself wrong for being beautifully human.
Right.
And then it's more easy to get back on track and course correct if the make wrong isn't totally weighing you down and having you paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your, so talking about fall, and oh my gosh, like today I've got my doors open. It smells incredibly fallish out there. The leaves are coming down, and I've already been cleaning them up a little bit, which just blows my mind. And it makes me think of all of these wonderful routines, these new beginnings that we have. And do you see, with the people you work with and yourself, do you see fall as like a new beginning time for a lot of people, or is it just me?
I believe it. I have taken this on in the last few years of seeing it as my new year. Mainly because I honor myself every summer to be a bit of a beach bum. I grant myself a lot more leeway to be lazy. And there's a lot more acceptable, pleasurable activities in my summertime, right, that have zero attachment to being responsible and adulting. So come fall, who I am is I have made myself so wrong for being so non-productive that I kick myself into high gear, as we always are moving through cycles and seasons. I just embrace it as it's okay to slowly guide back into the things we necessarily aren't lit up about if we have the right frame of mind. So I try and bring it on as it's a new year, it's a new me, there's new pleasures, it's just in a different form.
Right.
Yeah, because I actually, at the end of the day, if I'm being honest, I love structure.
Yeah.
So by August, I'm starting to get a bit wiggy that there's been less structure in my life. And I wouldn't want that any longer than August. I am ready for this structure because then I can reframe my mind and say, look at all the things I can accomplish. That's actually what I'm here to do. So there's a sense of pride involved in that, but it takes putting aside the story that, oh God, we have to get kids ready for school and we have to deal with lunches. As you know, that's a lot of the common themes and tones of a lot of people is the drudgery and the lack of passion. And so I had a playful conversation with my girls last night. And I said, you know, why I'm so frazzled about lunches is I'm really committed that you guys eat well. And if we could all get on the same page and know that that's why mom gets a little like wiggy around lunches. And so just try and be as transparent and authentic as possible to say, hey, you know what? I actually need this so we could all work together. Then it's not, oh, mom's yelling at us to build a lunch and I don't know what she wants and I don't know why she's getting weirded out by this. It's very clear. This is my commitment. Can we all work together? That's what make wise choices.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to school has been, it's one of the things that I do take great pleasure in is this routine. But one thing I learned early on, my kids are in grade 5 and grade 2 now, but in the kindergarten stages, I really fretted over being late every day because we were commuting into a different school. I lived about 30 minutes away, and no matter what I did, something would come up and I would be late. And it really just like it broke me to the core emotionally. I was the mom who was late and all of this, and I just decided one day is like, big deal, like what happens if we sign in late, right? And I just let go of all of that anxiety that was around being late, and we just started strolling in with confidence and hey, we're here and this is what matters, and whether it's 5 minutes late or not in kindergarten, like that's okay. We're gonna be okay. It's not the end of the world. And it changed my entire frame of mind around the pressures of the evening routine, the morning routine, the packing the lunches routine, all of that, and I just really take great pride in it. And even this morning, I don't know why, but because I like doing it, you know, I'm making fresh waffles, and you know, I'm not that mom, believe me. It's like I lost the game of Jumanji around this house right now because it is back to school. But I was making fresh waffles, and you know, we just had a really happy, easygoing morning. And for me, that makes all the difference. Of I've made a point of being very present in no matter whatever I'm doing. I'm being present now. So if I'm having my summer off, that's what I'm doing. And I'm the same way. Like I jumped on the trampoline, I went swimming every day. This is like, it was just a summer holiday and with my kids. And right now that's all I want to be doing in my summers. And then getting back into fall, I very overzealously booked you know, everything. I see the calendar, I see they're back in school, and I see, wow, I can do everything. Like Cindy, like I just like, you know, like I'm here and I've got like, you know, all of this time and I'm just going to conquer the world. And you know, one thing kind of goes this way and one thing goes that way, and then you start to get those feelings that we talked about earlier coming up. So it's you know, if anybody else is feeling the same way, it's like I think we all could collectively, like, you know,
give each other a hug.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what it's supposed to be like, and just be present with that and okay with it.
Well, and it's the okay piece that will transform it.
Yeah.
Because in the moment, you can release all of the anxiety around that. New paths will open up. Not until. Because we can force our way into doing anything, right? We can force it, but that's never, ever, ever going to be the path that works for a long time. Yeah.
How do you support and how do you work with women? What do you want women to get out of spending this time together and with you?
I think that it's super important to recognize that there are influences around us at any given moment. They're either building us up or they're bringing us down on a level that has us choose things differently. So what I mean by that is we can be personally responsible, that we can show up and we can do and we can stay true to our commitments. But the examples and leaders that we surround ourselves with are going to either breathe life into our powerful self, or they're going to pour us a glass of wine and ask us to commiserate and bitch about how shitty back to school time is. And neither is right or wrong, but we just need to be consciously aware of where we're tapping into on the majority of our energy basis. That includes news feeds on social media and having an opportunity to hand select the influences that pull your best self forward. And so that's my biggest piece in the teachings of what I offer is what is in your way of building the ultimate life, which includes the ultimate influences. Is there I feel bad, we've been friends for a really long time and I'm really loyal, but it's just not working for me to have so much interaction. There's so many things in our way from choosing things powerfully that we know is for the highest, greatest good. Right. So I like looking at those blocks and collectively making discussions around all of it and any of it, because something's going to percolate for one woman that's going to land on 75% of the women in the room or the conversation. They didn't even know that was running them. They didn't even know that was a block for them. But the moment you can have conversations that matter, everything gets realigned in our lives and everything flows much easier. Yeah. I invite every single person watching this to connect with me and follow me and PM me and interact with me. And when something feels right, follow it. Get more of it. Create other experiences like that.
Yeah.
And I feel that it seems simplistic to say that, and it's a really hard task to do at times because of our obligatory assumptions in our mind that we have to be all and do all.
Yeah.
But it is very simple. Bring more into your life that you want more of, and turn down the sounds of the things that are noisy and not helpful.
And you're setting a really good example of that, because I do follow you on social media and I love your lives, and you live in some kind of magical wonderland. I don't even know where you live. There's like deers and it's like Snow White, and you know, but you're really leading that example of surrounding yourself with that beauty that you've asked for and that you've called for and that showed up for you, and you know how important that is for other people to do the same thing, because you can. And
anybody can. I live in Langley just like you. So what's weird is it's right in our backyard. And
I'm probably looking for it. Like, where is this wonderland? I don't know.
I'd have you over and show you. But it is possible when we believe it's possible. What ends up happening is we forget it's possible, or we talk ourselves out of it, or we allow that cynicism to override. Yeah. So every single day I pin up my cynicism and I'm like, back off. You're not helpful. Get out of my space. Let me choose something that's, as you say, magical. It's a woo-woo term, but that's how life works in the flow of things. Yeah. You have to suspend your disbelief to welcome in beautiful deer.
And it's right there too. And a lot of people that I've spoken to lately really speak to that, like recognizing and being able to call out what you're afraid of or what's making you feel icky or a certain way, calling it out, and like you said, pinning it, like, back off, not now, like, I know you're there, but you know, not today. There's so much power in that, and it's just this incredible moving on, got other things to focus on, not going to let you drag me down. Whatever that is, right?
And what I'll pause and interject here, which is so important to note, is often what has us stopped in being that bold is someone once said we were selfish, or someone once said that our courage made them feel uncomfortable. Right, yeah. But it comes from someone that wanted you to fill their empty, cavernous vat. And you cannot give to people that are not actively filling themselves. You will be depleted. And so there's so much dynamic and awareness around the interaction of our relationships, and the flow of that in and of itself is another topic. But I'm very juiced and jazzed about the micro-isms of humans, because it's just fascinating the way we operate. It's fascinating how messy we can get.
Yeah. Yes. Regardless how messy we are, what we can create. I mean, if you look at all of the incredible leaders and the creators out there, everybody shares similar stories of life is messy, you know, and you just live through
and
it.
doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was a student of Marie Forleo, and I love one of her sayings is everything is figure outable, because yeah, like it is. There's so much simplicity and truth in that, because no matter what we come up against, it's like, okay, well, what's next? We can figure this out. Just keep going.
Well, and the thing is, again, that comes back to our influences, because if you surround yourself with people that are actively seeking out solutions, which is never everybody 100% of the time, by the way, I just have to note, it's a much easier vibration to swim in, as opposed to the naysayers and the people that are like, oh God, did that happen? What are you going to do? And you're like, I don't know. No, I don't know.
That is bad. Actually, that brings, I had this question when we were just chatting, and I get it a lot, but you know, when you're kind of on a roll and you're doing your thing, and you're feeling on top of the world with what you're bringing out and stepping out, it seems like people just come on out and just feel the need to preach their opinion on why it's wrong, why you'll fail, why, just whatever negative thing they can throw at you. And maybe could you speak to that a little bit of like, why do they show up? Where are they coming from?
Okay, I believe that everyone's just casting roles for their own play, and they have their vision of how their journey is going to be. And they're just going to offer you an audition once in a while and say, hey, do you want to play the role? Do you want to come on in? I have this set vision of how this is going to go. What we forget is we also have a vision and a commitment to how our journey in our life is going to unravel. And not everyone has a permanent role. If anyone, you're the only one that's going to be a solid in your entire journey. Every other individual will come and go. And you get to choose how long they stay and how long they contribute and what level you get to interact with them. And you also get to say exactly the role you need, and then unattach yourself to the who. And the who will naturally just pop into existence and say, here I am. And sometimes people pop in and they're like, I want that role. And you're going to give it to me, and I am not leaving until you give it to me. And you're just like, I don't like you, and we're not working well together. You need to go. Maybe they need you in their journey, but it doesn't mean you have to accept their role in your play that has nothing to do with their character.
Right.
At all. And it takes strong commitment to vision, and forgiving yourself that you're not going to meet their needs is totally okay. And it's our emotions that make that one messy.
Yeah. And
because we feel the need to make everyone happy, but that's just us in their vision, not us in ours.
Yeah. That really speaks a lot to staying true to your path, true to the vision that you know that you have created and that you're working on or in, and recognizing those people. Like I'm picturing some kind of like Nintendo game, like people popping up.
How about me? And you can jump on their head with love, like a mushroom, right? And you can say, "Thanks, no."
Right. Yeah, and that guilt, you just have to let go of the guilt, because there's a certain point when it's not going to override you anymore, because you have too good of a mission to complete, and those are just distractions.
But also coming back to knowing that we're kind and loving at our core. So whether or not we don't slot somebody for a role ongoingly doesn't make us a bad person. We're actually doing them a favor, because they'll find more of what they need and want, true to what they need and want. Mm-hmm. We're not it if we don't feel it two ways.
Yeah.
And often people don't recognize that that's what's running all of us. Nobody wants to beg for a job, bully their way through an interview, and then sit at a desk for 40 years with their arms crossed, miserable at a 9 to 5. And that's essentially what happens with our relationships. People come, they squeak through the interview, they sit, they change, they evolve, and we don't change and evolve and reevaluate. There's nothing wrong with this process if you can send love to everyone and knowing that they're up to what they're up to and it doesn't impact either way, whether paths are crossed or not.
Yeah. That's how that growth is happening for both parties in that situation, right? That's how they grow. That's how you grow. That's incredible.
It's a powerful way of looking at it rather than, did you hear what Susie did? As we do when we get wine in ourselves and we start bashing and, making people wrong for the choices they're choosing, as opposed to really looking at what's really happening in an overarching aspect of humans in lives. It's very basic when you can pull out of the emotion.
Yeah, and there's this collective that happens, like, women want to support women, if we're just talking about women, but they also want to nitpick them and tear them apart. It's just this kind of weird, like yes, we want to support, but why are they doing it that way? Or, that kind of thing. And it's...
well, I think we're all just trying to figure everything out and do the best we can. And often our pain guides us into looking at the negative as opposed to all of the great things going around with the beautiful women in our lives. Yeah. We do that with ourselves too. We look at the negative rather than the positive, and it's so easy to do. It's by default. Yeah. That's my take on that anyways. I think that any situation is up for change. Should one person speak up and say, hey, could we adjust the conversation, or could we have this night go this way instead of that way? And I think that's a lot of the drive for my events, is creating an example of interaction with women that is not common. It's very rare. It takes strong intention to build something other than easy wine drinking and bitching. Literally shedding all of the shit that does not need to be there, because it's really, really conflicting when it's there. And once it's discovered, the release is easy. And then the true available you is right there shining, saying, hey, where you been? It's so fun. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I can't wait to hear more about it. And
it's pretty good.
And I have so many questions. I feel like we could just kind of go on a lot of tangents on everything. But really, I think a lot of people will just find it helpful to realize that, don't make yourself wrong is this core message of what we're talking about today. Is it's going to be what it's going to be, and you're going to feel what you're going to feel, and there's nothing wrong with you.
Well, there is never anything wrong with any of it at all, and we're all in a cycle of doing things the way we've always done things, and everything is a practice habit. Everything. And it takes disrupting that to create something new.
Yeah.
So what I would leave on that note by saying is, find a support structure that calls your best self forward. And that's not the women that you drink wine with and commiserate with and are stagnant with. It's the people that will actually say, hey, I noticed that languaging in the description of what you said about XYZ didn't have any power there for you. You really made it out like you have no choice there. What would it look like if you had choice there? And just having those people, and not necessarily people, maybe it's an influence through social media or something where you see things ever so slightly different, and it takes you into a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.